So my talk today is about intention, rising up intention. Sounds really sexy, doesn't it? Intention, it's like commitment, it's like accountability, doing the job, being professional. But here's the thing. When I get very clear, the people around me tend to be very clear. And it's so much more inspiring to be around people who aren't fuzzy and cloudy. Have you ever noticed? Which means if I am fuzzy and cloudy and I've got people around me who are fuzzy and cloudy, that's a lot of fuzz, that's a lot of clouds, and that is not serving anyone, particularly the world. And so what I've noticed is the more I create and commit to that clear intention, and this is true for all of us, not only does the world seem to reflect in greater clarity and greater power and support, but I no longer waste time and energy trying to fix the unfixable or clean up what can't or doesn't want to be cleaned up. In other words, my life demonstrates in greater order, and I'm no longer trying to put whipped cream on garbage. So there's a spiritual principle that we teach in our classes. And it's what we teach when we're teaching affirmations and prayer. And that principle is that we must be definite with the infinite. We must be definite with the infinite. Now, it's one thing to say, I am open to the greatest good. Okay, that's good. But there are times when we need to be very clear and be definite with the infinite. In the world of technology, we would say, garbage in, garbage out. Those thoughts that we are holding, those thoughts that we are thinking, those beliefs that we are nurturing, if they are about clarity, power, intention, and dreams, we are absolutely going to have that reflected back coming to us. And we are going to be magnetized and so in tune with the vibration of all of that that we can't help be lifted up in that intention. Even in the midst of stuff that might be happening around us, in that garbage. But if our thoughts are all about fear and we do not stop them, if our thoughts are all about unworthiness and we do not change them, if our thoughts are all about, well, somebody else, not me, or even better than that, what about me? If we don't change those thoughts, if we don't shift them, then we get to have more of that. So I was thinking about this just now, and I didn't know I was going to share this story, but stories are always good. So when you all know that that's my husband over there, right? You don't even know I'm telling this story. He's the guitar player. I get to go home with the guitar player. Listen, we were on a gig once and he had his banjo, and there I was going, oh my God, I have to go home with the banjo player. But that's another story. So when we first got married, we knew that we wanted to have a child. Now, there was a biological thing there that said, no, you can't. And we thought, well, we can do a lot of science. We can have a child through science. Well, we could do that. I mean, anyone who does that, God bless you. That's wonderful. But we decided that that was not the way for us to go. And that for us, we were going to adopt a child. We wanted to adopt a baby, raise that baby, and screw that baby up in our own specific, unique way. And so if you ask my son, who's going to be 27 tomorrow, he'll say we did. So we set that intention. We got very clear that this was an idea wanting to emerge through us, that we were giving birth to this idea, that it was for us not about giving birth to the baby, but it was about parenting and raising that baby. That's what we knew our job was. We stayed very clear on that intention, and we prayed about it, we got together with others, we visioned about it, and we spent a lot of time in exploring what is it we need to become, what do we need to do, what do we need to let go of, and how are we being called to grow and to learn in order to be parents and to be prepared for when that baby comes to us. Now, the path began to lead us, and it was very interesting, to adopting from Russia. Now, this was in 1999 when Russia still liked us. And so we went on this path. And so international adoption was an interesting thing, is an interesting thing. And because we were so clear, I'm really knowing that this is how this all happened, because it was just powerful. It went bam, 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 bam. In May, I sent a little notice to Department of Immigration and said, we will be adopting a child internationally. That was May, like May 9th, I think it was, in 1999. And by October, we were standing in front of a judge in Russia, assuring her, promising that we were going to love this baby and not raise him to farm him out for his organs, or farm out his organs. That's what stories can do. Because at the time there were lots of anti-American, anti-Russian stories, right? And that's the story she was going with. We went, oh my God, who does that? We don't. So this intention was very clear. It was very clear. Now, what you find is when you make an intention, when you set that intention, when you anchor that intention in a place of commitment, the commitment to support it, to be present to it, and to do what it needs to have done in order to bring it forth, there will always be an underlying intention that's going to come up and start affecting that intention if you let it. These are the beliefs down here, the little foxes that nibble on the vines. They show up as people going, really? Russia? You couldn't find a baby here? That shows up as, but maybe you're too old. Are you sure? Really? You're going to have a baby now? Or, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot of money. You're going to probably have to bribe people. I mean, there was just all of this nonsense that happened. But the commitment was clear. The commitment and the intention saw us through. So as each of these things rose up from within our own consciousness, and they're all just, people were saying what's already present in us. So I can't blame them. Well, I could a little bit. But I can't blame them for reflecting what's all, the doubts that might be in my mind or in my husband's mind. So with each one, we revealed a greater idea. We looked at it and said, well, is there any truth in this? No. Is there any participation in this? Well, maybe a little bit. So what's the greater idea? That we are here to love and raise a child, that we are a family, and there is that child who is calling to us. There's an idea that we teach, which is that which you are wanting is wanting you. That which you are seeking is seeking you. And I remember sitting, and we spent a lot of time with Dr. Mark, whom, if you have not been here very long, he was senior minister of this church for over 30 years, and he retired about a year and a half ago. So we sat with him and prayed and really, really looked at all of this. And it was such a good way to start this journey out, because those things are going to come up. Those things did come up. And at every point when there was what appeared to be an obstacle, we could look at that as a stumbling block or a stepping stone. And so each of those stepping stones came one by one by one. There was one where we had to go to Parker Center, downtown Los Angeles, and get fingerprints, which then had to be put in, and they had to be notarized in a document, which then went to another agency for what they call an apostille, which is like a notarization of the notary. And it's a lot of bureaucracy. Oh my God, there's so much that has to be done. So while we were there and we were signing off, the woman who was at the window said, well, it says you need a number here. You need my badge number. I'm not doing that. I'm not sending my badge number to Russia. And she was adamant that this wasn't going to happen. And we had the notary and the whole thing. And I thought, oh my God, with everything else we've gone through, this is going to be the thing that stops us? And then I looked at my husband, I said, give me a moment. And I went over here, and I went, okay. And I came back to the window, I said, oh my God, I'm not going to get my baby. A way came forth. Somebody, I don't even know who had the idea, but we said, well, do you have you have a lot of chairs here. Is there a serial number on the bottom of your chair? Can we just put that down? Because it's Russia. It was 1999. They're still doing everything by pencil. No computers. I mean, it was still a very much third world country. And so we turned our chair over and found a number somewhere and just well, we'll put that in there. Who's going to check on this? And it did it. When we were getting ready to go, we were 3 days out, and we still didn't have a letter from the government saying, you have permission to go to adopt this child. And I, at that point, had written to Hillary Clinton. I had written to President Clinton. I had written to our senators, our congressmen. Nobody had responded. And finally, I sent one to Barbara Boxer, another email, and I said, we are trying to get our baby. Because I had read that if you have someone in your government who is on your side, then you will get what you need. So I wrote this email. And immediately, we got the paperwork back. We got the approval back. Everything went through. Okay, we are on our way. It's good. When we got on the plane to fly from LAX direct to Moscow, it was very interesting because it was kind of charming. It was an older DC-10, and the flight attendants were my mother's age, which is not a bad thing. Yeah, you know, they're very maternal and very comforting. They had metal hangers in the closets, and you could hear them rattling as the plane. And the fact that they had closets, right? And we looked out the window before we took off, and here's the pilot, the co-pilot, and someone on the ground, and they're pointing to something over here. And we discovered later this is the universal language of Russian flight crews. They're pointing over here. Conversation. And so we took off. Now, we got our baby. And it was such an amazing thing to go through because we had stayed clear, committed to the intention, and did everything we needed to do. The journey was far from over. The journey had just begun. And it just continued to be even more amazing. We, after promising the judge that we weren't going to farm out his organs, we literally did this, by the way. We went back to the hotel. And the next day, the courthouse burned down. Oh, and by the way, as we looked out the windows after the court session, and we're waiting for the judge to come out with a translator and give us the whole, yes, this is okay thing, we looked out the window, and 7 floors down below us was a sort of a prison yard with razor wire and fierce German shepherds, you know, just sort of keeping watch on all of the Americans who wanted to adopt children. Anyway, it was quite the adventure. So we the night before we left Moscow, I got food poisoning. And that was interesting because I kind of really got, okay, well, this is what it means to be a parent, because I was praying at the porcelain altar that this was indeed food poisoning, not flu. Because I thought, okay, a kid on a plane for a 12-hour nonstop flight with flu is not fun for anybody. So please, God, let this be food poisoning. Let it be food poisoning. I am all in for food poisoning, I was so happy to have food poisoning because it wasn't contagious. I remember as we were getting ready to go to Russia, and we met with Dr. Mark, and this church amazingly tithed $800 to the orphanage so that we could bring clothes and medicines and all of that. I know. He said, you know, this happened so fast, and you guys have a really strong awareness and clear intention and consciousness about it, but I can't wait to meet this kid, because I think he made a deal with God and said, fine, I'll come in at Russia, but then I want these 2 people to come pick me up, fly me back, first class, by the way, to California, because I don't want to wear socks anymore. And that's our kid. I mean, when we were living in Oregon several years later, and he was in junior high, he did wear socks, but you know, for a whole snowy winter, he wore shorts the whole winter because he wanted to see if he could do it. And, and every time we said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm from Russia. It's nothing to me. All right. Okay, that's fine with us. Raymond Charles Barker wrote, the infinite can only produce in your experience what you are. It cannot produce what you wish you were. Now take that in. That which we are cycling about, cycling through, nurturing, and believing is what creates in our experience. Now, I want to tell you that there's some sort of guardrails there or governor that will say, you've got some unhealthy or some judgmental or angry or what the hell are they doing in Washington thoughts going on. But the only thing that keeps us from thinking those thoughts is us. So this incredible source, which shows up as substance and comes through us, not to us, but through us, needs us to be fully awake and fully committed in the intention to, number one, to remember that we are here as divine, powerful, deserving, worthy creations of spirit. Yes. That's number one. Number two doesn't matter. That's it. Because if we are not practicing that and doing everything we can and finding those ways to remember it, to enforce it, to reinforce it, and to work with people, to take the classes, whatever it is that helps grow this deep spiritual awareness of our connection with and as spirit. If we're not doing that, then what shows up, and I don't want you to be afraid of your own thinking, because there's a lot that you can choose to be afraid of, and I hope you don't do that either. But what will show up is that stuff that we are practicing. Oh, you're getting older. You better watch out. You could get sick. Or, oh, you know what? It's really, really cold and rainy out there. Maybe you should stay home because it's just going to be nothing but car accidents. Or it's cold and flu season again. I didn't even get you a card. You didn't get that. Okay, where's my drummer? He's not there. Okay, cold and flu season again. I didn't get you a card. Ba-dum-ching. Okay. But that's it, because we participate in all of these ideas. We participate in the race consciousness. We participate in all of the stuff that is out in the world. We express in greater glory and richness when we invite our purpose, our divine purpose, to inform and guide us. And I feel as if the spirit within each of us does actually seem at times like it wants to burst forth. Okay, so your purpose, what is your purpose? This is it. Your purpose is to reveal your gifts, use your gifts in service to blessing yourself and others, and to have fun while you are doing it. Yes. That's it. Yep. That's it. Now, if you are convinced that you need to be wearing sackcloth and ashes, and I can't even imagine what that looks like, if you are convinced that that's your purpose, congratulations, you did it. Ta-da! But if we are convinced that our purpose is to be creative, to bless, to serve, and to love, and to have fun while we're doing it, ta-da! Ed is one. Ta-da! Ed is an amazing photographer, an artist, and he is having fun doing it, right? Yes, he is. And people are celebrating him. He's touring not just like around the country. He's going all over the world where galleries are calling him and saying, we really need your work. We need to see your artwork here. How fast can you get it here to us? And he's having fun doing it. That's what matters. Because we are serving the world by our joy. We don't serve our world by suffering. I need everybody to remember that. I've had those times, and I'm sure you have too, when I felt so connected to my passion and my talent that it was as if my soul grew beyond the limits of my physical body. It got so big. It's like the idea that your aura, that energetic field, transcends the physical boundaries of that which we call the physical body. Now, it's sort of an Incredible Hulk thing, right? Where he's wearing normal clothes and something spurs him into an emotional reaction and he bursts through those clothes and now he's a big giant. Well, without the anger, we need to be those big giants. We are those big giants for spirit, for our lives, for our passions. Now, does it mean we give up everything, throw everything aside, quit our jobs, leave our marriages, and do all that? No, it does not. It means that you are here, I am here, to dedicate myself, dedicate yourself to fulfilling that divine thing that is going on in here. And to know that everything necessary for the fulfillment of that is included in the dream. Everything is included in it. Do you need to know all of it before the journey starts? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We didn't know all of the stuff that was before us as we were getting ready to adopt a baby, and happily I was going to Babies R Us and buying cute little clothes and diapers and all of that. Who knew that when he hit 13 years old, I would just want to throw him out of the house? Who knew? Instead, we just took the doors off his bedroom 3 times. He loves us now. He's got 3 kids. I like to work with metaphysical interpretations of stories in the Old and New Testaments in the Bible. And the story that came to mind as I was preparing was the story of the prodigal son. Okay, we all know the story. One son stayed home. He stayed within the frameworks of what he thought was expected. We're going to call him Myron. The other son said, I want my inheritance now because I want to go out into the world. I want to explore riotous and over-the-top living. Let's call him Axel. So Axel sets off in search of a high level of hedonism and crazy. Spoiler alert, he finds it. So think of Axel as basically moving into Studio 54 and staying there. He has lots of hedonistic friends. He drinks too much, engages in experiences that you and I would never write home about, ever. No one's mother wants to know about that. No one's mom wants to know that her baby is doing unspeakable things with so many unspeakable people. So Axel finally runs out of money. He has spent his entire inheritance, and his friends, what a shock, abandon him because he has surpassed the limit on his American Express card. So, you know, he's no good to them. Tired, alone, ashamed, beaten down, Axel turns back home. Now, home, metaphysically, means he turned within. We go on a journey. Don't get caught up in the logistics of the story. We go on a journey that brings us to home, brings us to an awareness of who we are. And sometimes it takes great experiences of dealing with a stubborn woman at Parker Center, of dealing with pilots who go, but everything is here for us to remember who we are, to remind us to turn within, to go back home. So he begins that journey. He turns back and he begins the journey home. And along the way, he has to beg for food, and he often ends up sleeping alongside the pigs and the swine. Now, if you're Jewish, that's not a good thing. I'll just leave it there. Anybody here Jewish, you know, you can explain it to everybody else. Anyway, good times, right? So he reaches home. His father sees him and rushes out to cling to him, to love him, to support him, to give him compassion, to wrap him in the finest cloak, to just let him know that he is still loved and blessed. Now, Myron stayed home, and Myron's going, and his father says, my son, you were with me always. You were with me always. And this son has returned to me so that I may love and remind him who he is. So some of us, there's a part of us that will be with spirit and that awareness always. But there's also that part, that ego part, I think, that has to go away, has to explore, and wants to find meaning and purpose in this world out here, rather than this world in here. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. So the message here isn't about dysfunctional families. I'm sure we've got those stories. But it's about the infinite and power and presence that can only be accessed by turning back to it, to the source. Metaphysically, by the way, when you hear that word father in these stories, it's not about dad. In fact, Abba was the word that was used. Abba means daddy. It means loving presence. And so don't get confused if you didn't have an Abba in your life. This is the loving presence within, which is source, which always loves, which always says yes, and is always seeking to express through you in a high, a wonderful, joyful, fun way. The infinite love that you and I come from responds to us in equal and greater measure than we can ever imagine when we remember our divine identity. You know, we might go a mile a minute looking for the big aha out there, and yet it's all in here. So one of the things I teach when I teach meditation and spiritual practice is I remind people, especially in the midst of conflict, in the midst of stuff in the world, to put your cheeks in the chair and close your eyes and turn within. Cheeks in the chair, pray. Cheeks in the chair, meditate. Cheeks in the chair, read. Cheeks in the chair, study. Cheeks in the chair, turn within. That's where all of this nurturance comes from. So, for all of the investments we make in this world out here, do you know that we could avoid all of that confusion and existential pain if we just got intentional about knowing our spiritual identity and our gifts? You know, this song about fire is really important. Moses knelt before the burning bush, and he didn't take a bucket of water to quench the flames. He didn't do that. Instead, he asked what the information was. What do I need to know? Who am I? What is mine to do? And the flame responded, I am that which thou art. Thou art that which I am. I am that I am. I am. It is that secret identity within each of us. I am that which thou art. Thou art divine. Thou art powerful. Thou art joyful. Thou art infinite. Thou art fully connected. Remember that, because throwing water on the flame doesn't mean that which caused the flame goes out. So you might seek to sort of quench the dream, push it down a little bit, stomp it down. It's still going to be there, and it's going to come out. It's the same thing with beliefs that we haven't fully examined. We can try to bury them. We can try to say, well, no, la, 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 la. Or we can say, oh, that's interesting. Is that true for me? Where did I get that? Do I believe that? Oh, what's the truth? What's the greater truth here? The greater truth. And this is what we have to practice, even when we are not feeling it, thinking it, seeing it, or knowing it, is to practice, I am that I am. I am here as a divine creation of spirit. I am as God created me, as spirit created me, as light created me. I am here as the divine experience and expression of the majesty, of the magnificence that keeps the planets in their orbits, that keeps the oceans rising and falling, that keeps the rain coming. I am that. I am. Now, there's a reason we talk a lot here about education and classes, because so many of us, myself included, forget the I am. And we think, I am not. I am not. So that idea of what I want often gets filtered through a gauze of, well, what I don't want. This is what I don't want. And I've said before that I've had clients come to me and I've said, well, how do you want to feel? What is it you want? Well, I don't want to feel like this, and I certainly don't want that. And I don't want to feel like this, and I really don't want that. So when I hear that, it tells me that individual may have been really, really focusing on what they don't want, and therefore creating a lot of energy so that it could be there, and they could see it, they could feel it, they could know it, because that which we place our attention on, that which we place our energy in, is absolutely present for us, right? Our energy goes where our attention flows. Now, there's an elephant in the room. We have people that we may not fully believe in, support, or love, or bless, who are political leaders, who might be social leaders, spiritual leaders, whatever that is for you, or you may not be thrilled with what you see in our world or in our country. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The more we condemn, and the more we get into the, oh my God, can you believe it energy, then guess what? We're going to get a lot more of, oh my God, can you believe it stuff. I'm not saying you don't take action. Take action. But do it from a place of what I want, not what I don't want. What I see possible, not what's going on. Because if we are informed solely by this stuff out here, then we're going to get more of that out here. And there is an amazing alchemy that happens from appreciation, from blessing, from being grateful. It transcends everything. It transcends everything. When we praise that which isn't working, and I know this seems so counterintuitive, but when we praise it and bless it, it gets better. It changes. When I have been ill, when I've been sick, if I sat and praised that particular part of my life, of my body, of whatever was going on, if I sit in that blessing and talking to it and knowing that there is a divine presence within me, it gets better. Or I'm drawn to those people who can help me in a recovery, in revealing wholeness again. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, good. I want this to land. Because we have the choice to be clear in what we want. We can be clear in what we don't want. I think we've all had enough of that. But if we start to get very clear about what we do want and what we are worthy of, then we begin to create magic. Actually, what we begin to create is reality, spiritual reality with a capital R, because we are living from the truth, that capital T truth, that all of this is God. God is all there is. This is all God, therefore it must be good. I demand to see the good in it right now. I demand to see the blessing. And that's going to cause you to kind of put up your dukes because you're not going to believe it. I want you to do it anyway. This too is good. This too is God. This too is here to bless me, to bless all of us. I demand to see the blessing in it now. Ernest Holmes talked about this a lot. That's what this whole teaching is founded on. It is done unto us as we believe. Those ideas and dreams that we hold so dearly in our hearts are just as dear to God, by the way. So this is what he wrote in his book, From This Thing Called Life. Do you think it reasonable to suppose that this life could respond to you other than by doing so through the act of corresponding to your thought? Your image of thought is the mold. Think about that. It's the mold. And in a sense, your faith is the substance dropped into this mold. Perhaps it would be better to say it is the avenue through which the substance is pushed out into your experience. This means that when you ask for something or affirm the presence of your desire, hear that, affirm the presence of your desire, you really receive it through the act of believing that you already possess what you have asked for. So when that dream comes forth and says, be a painter, be a photographer, and you think, I don't have any paints, I don't have a camera. And the voice says, be a painter, be a photographer, be a musician. I don't have a piano. Be a musician. I don't have a piano. Be a musician. Fine, I'm a musician, I'm a musician, I'm a musician. Oh, here's a piano, free on Craigslist. We affirm our desire. We affirm our readiness and our willingness to live as and to express that desire. You know, we don't beseech, beg, or bargain with some deity out there that may or may not like us or respond to us. We don't do that. This is spiritual adulting that I'm talking about. We move into spiritual adulting. And that's really important because the magical thinking that we had as children, oh, you know, I wish upon a star, that's not what we're looking at here. We are working with spiritual law, which absolutely responds and co-responds to our thought and to the emotions and the presence and the power of our feeling. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say to you. Oh, no. Discomfort. You're going to be uncomfortable, okay? When that fire starts to burn, not only are you going to be uncomfortable, but the people around you are going to be uncomfortable. Congratulations. Be the one who stirs the pot and inspires them to greater growth, to a greater awakening, to greater awareness. Don't go around the world and poke, but poke yourself and begin to notice, I'm here to be awake, I'm here to be awake, I am awake, I am awake. And I just want to say again, that word amen, amen. On this ground I stand and henceforth have my being. On this ground I stand and henceforth have my being. Say that with me. On this ground I stand, and henceforth have my being. Do it again. On this ground I stand, and henceforth have my being. One final thought from Tagore. This was brought to practitioners from Nikki Vescovi this week. Faith is the bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. Faith is the bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. The bird is singing, everybody. The bird is singing. The light is there. Good morning. Awaken to that light. Let us all move from the dark and begin to live in that place of intention and joy and demonstration that is God. Let's pray. Thank you. So we turn within once again in loving collective recognition that there is one life, one presence, one infinite power. That life is God. That life is spirit. That life is perfect. That life is my life. That life is our life. That life is the truth of every being on this planet and beyond. It is that wisdom. It is that intelligence that lifts us up and responds to our very breath, responds to our very ask, responds to our yes. And so we now say yes to knowing ourselves as Spirit knows us. We know ourselves as Spirit knows us, whole, complete, wondrous, magnificent creations of the divine. We let nothing else inform. And this awareness of who we are acts as a circle, a light, protective light circle that keeps all of the thoughts that aren't about God away. Because we choose now to host the thoughts of God. We choose now to host the thoughts of Spirit. We choose now to court in awareness of love. We are blessed by this. We bless this church. We bless all churches, all paths to God, all mosques, all temples, all ashrams, all cathedrals, any place where people gather and the light shines brighter. For we are here not to dim that light, but to fan the flame and to be absolutely lifted up by that flame, to be tempered by it. All of it, all of it, all of it. So we surround our planet with love. We bless our leaders. We bless this nation, knowing that as we bless it, a higher experience of awareness, of intelligence, of love, of justice has the space to grow. It is as if we are watering the fields, and so we water these fields, and we see justice come forth. We see access come forth. We see love come forth, and most importantly, we see peace come forth. We bless all of it. So in gratitude, I simply release this word into the activity of the law, knowing it is so. And so it is, and together we say, Amen.